We will be controlled by the thing that we made. That's just bad, and we need to say unequivocally, it's bad. It's bad to be controlled by machines. Machines are, we create them to help us, to make our lives better, not to take orders from them. If it's bad for people.
So first thing we're going to do is find a nice jungle tempo, 170 BPM I'd like to start with the drum break. So we're going to find a drum break. These are all my samples down here on the yellow pads. See, track 2 is yellow. I think we have a winner. So the first thing I like to do is I chop up the drum break. I'm going to the slice function, pick 8 different slices, and then the drum break is populated across these 8 slices on the yellow pads. I lay down the kick drum first. And that sounds okay to me. Just tap out a simple drum and bass or jungle pattern on the step sequencer. Now I'm looking for the snare drum. And I'll put that there. A little bit too easy, so let's see what else we can come up with. I'm just looking for another slice that will go well, fit into the beat well, without making it too cluttered. So I can feel or hear a little bit of the kick drum at the end of that. We just want to trim that off. There we go, no more kick drum on the end. And then I'm just scanning forward and backwards a little bit with the sample start time to find the best place. So I'm going to put this in between the snare drums here. Sounds okay. Still a little bit choppy. So before I start to get into the micro timing and moving my slices off the steps or chopping them further, I like to try and play around with the tuning of the sample. If I tune it down, it slows down. And sometimes that just slots it into place really nicely. And then I'm shortening the sample as well, so it cuts off quicker. A little bit more snappy. Then I'm filtering out some of the highs with a low pass filter. Just getting it to sit that little bit better. So now I want to try and get some hi-hats into the beat to fill out the beat a little bit more. So I'm just searching for a hi-hat. I could use this one. I like this one. Let's try this one. I'm going to use the step sequencer and program in a very simple hi-hat pattern. That sounded good. Just lengthening the sample here. But I don't like the way it muddies up the mix, so I'm going to keep that sample nice and short. I'm going to turn it down a little bit on the mixer page. Let it meld in a little bit better with that break. And I'm going to add a little bit of reverb as well. The pink is the delay, and then the yellow is the reverb. That's different choices. And then on the break as well, just to help it sit in the same space. A little bit of variation. What I'm doing here is I'm going to play around with the velocity, which is the volume of each sample. You can see it's all the same here. So I'm going to lower the velocity of every second hit. A little bit more of a groove. I want to put a little bit of extra percussion in here now. Looking for a sample. Little shaker, good work. I like this one, a nice soft clap. So let's juice this sample up a little bit. Gonna add a little bit of delay. Cut out some of the highs, add a little bit of distortion. Just trying to find that sweet spot. I'm using my ears here. Now I'm going to record a little bit of panning automation. So I've doubled the length of the clip. The clip now goes for twice as long, swooping from the left to the right hand side of the channels. So over here on the mixing page, you press down, everything's dead center. I can go to the left. Here we go. Now you see it moving of its own accord, left to right. I think I still want some more percussion, so we're going to put that on this track. Track 5. I like this loop, a little kind of drum roll. And then like we saw before with the break, now the slices of that loop are laid out in front of us on the pads. So I like this part here, leading into the rest of the beat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop out that part of the kick at the end, which I don't want. There we go. It's gone now. So now we're just going to try and time it correctly. I think it's a little bit late. Now it's early, so now I'm in the micro timing. Just trying to find that sweet spot. Again, just using my ears where it feels like it's in the right place. I'll turn off the other percussion so we can really hear it. That feels better. A little bit of reverb. Sounds good to me. Cut some of those lows out. I've got these other slices, so let's see if something else jumps out at us. Now let's try it with everything. Some melodic sounds. The cable is going into my circuit rhythm. I'm going to sample directly into that. So let's have a listen to what I've got so far. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by holding down a note. So I really like C sharp. So I've got a C sharp just being held there. Just resetting the oscillators. We've got 4 oscillators, which is this section here. This is the octave range, so I'm just making sure it's sitting in the right octave range. Making sure the BPM is half of... I missed this first note, so I'm just going to tap that in. And I deleted that wrong note. The step sequencer is really powerful. So right now I'm just scrolling through the pages of my samples. Sweet child of mine. So I'm just slow that down a little bit, stretch it out a little bit. Just so extend that out. Messing around with the filters a little bit, removing some of those highs, increasing the resonance. Just turning it down a little bit so it kind of sits in the background. There we are. It's just something for the rest of the elements of the song to exist within. Really helps pull the track together. A lot of the time I like to start with this drony or pad sound, but in this case I wanted to start with drums. Now there's only one thing left. It's bass. Okay, so I still really like this sound that I programmed a few months ago, and I think this would be a good place for it. This is my sequence. Picking up an empty slot, making sure there's plenty of space. So you can see it taking up the empty space down the bottom as it illuminates. And we're just recording exactly what's coming out of the S1. There we go, we've got enough. Got a couple of variations in there with the filter. So here it is. Let's save it and we can access it over here. So we can do a couple of different things. Let's just experiment. We'll play it just straight up, unadulterated. Sounds okay. Let's mess around it a little bit. So now I'm playing around with probability. So every note won't play every time. And if I'm messing around with probability, I like to have lots of notes in there because they're not all going to play. But it's always going to play the first one. Let's put some delay on that. Okay, it's going to sound really good. Don't typically put delay on bass, but there's no rules in it. I think like it looks cool. Sounds cool. Filter it down a little bit, turn up the resonance. A little bit of distortion. There we go. Pretty happy with that. So in this case, I could have chopped it up, I could have pitched it down, I could have resampled it with grid effects, I could have done lots of other things here. I just wanted to show you one workflow. There we go. Let's hear the whole thing.
We will be controlled by the thing that we made. That's just bad. We need to say unequivocally it's bad. It's bad to be controlled by machines. Machines are, we create them to help us to make our lives better, not to take orders from them. If it's bad for people, then we should strangle it in its grids. And why just blow up the data centers? Like, why is that hard? If it's actually going to become what you just described,